Hi folks. This lesson we're going to focus on the role of theory in sociology. This lesson and the next two will highlight some rather important theoretical applications in sociology. I really encourage you to make theory user-friendly. Theory really references sort of a statement that organizes a set of concepts or notions in a meaningful way by looking for and then explaining relationships among them. Like all scientists, sociologists employ theory, but the focus here is to use theory to make the elements of social life somewhat more understandable. And although there is generally speaking, a preference for more limited or narrowly focused theories, most sociologists are going to employ what are known as theoretical perspectives to guide their study. Think of these as rather broad assumptions about society and human social behavior, and they provide a kind of point of view for study and analysis. And the first of these that we're going to examine is highlighted on pages 7 and 8 of study guide number 1. And it's generally known as either the functionalist model or the structural functionalist model. This particular perspective envisions society as a system, like your body, comprised of interrelated parts. All the parts work to contribute to the whole, and that's the primary focal point of this particular model. If the components or the parts that make up the system help to ensure its survival, its success, they are performing what are called functions. Now, some of these functions are intended. They're rather obvious and are therefore referred to, using kind of a fancy term, perhaps, manifest. Some functions, on the other hand, are not actually intended. They may not be recognized, or put in another way, we just don't give them a lot of attention or notice. These are known as latent functions. Now, if you need some examples, focus for a moment on your clothing. What's a manifest or manifest functions of clothing? Well, all of you would agree, I think, clothing protects us, keeps us warm in the cold, keeps us dry in the wet. On the other hand, clothing can perform a variety of latent functions. Maybe the style we choose to wear indicates with whom we want to associate and whom we want to exclude from our circle of friends. I think all of you would agree that clothing may express a position that somebody occupies in society, or it may very well indicate how one feels about himself or herself. You can apply the same kind of reasoning to schools. Some manifest functions of schools, well, they're rather obvious. They provide students with knowledge, skills, information necessary to become functioning members of society, reading, writing, and arithmetic. But on the other hand, schools perform a variety of latent functions. On the one hand, you could argue they're kind of babysitters. They keep us off the streets and out of the job market while we are young. Likewise, high schools and colleges and universities serve as sort of marriage markets. It's there we might meet someone we choose to marry. Now, dysfunctions occur when some kind of arrangement or component doesn't really contribute to the success of the system, or causes a lack of agreement, kind of an unbalance in the relationship among the parts. And it's not at all unusual that a component within the system may perform both functions and dysfunctions. Think about that for a moment. I suspect you have access to, right at this moment in time, a very important technological device, your cell phone or your smartphone. Think about the functions performed by these remarkable pieces of technology. Would you agree with me? They provide convenience, and they certainly enhance the ease of communication. Likewise, you'd all agree with me too that they can provide real support in an emergency situation. And how many times have you turned to your cell phone to secure valuable information? On the other hand, what are some dysfunctions you recognize associated with cell phones and smartphones? One that's attracted a whole lot of attention as of late is distraction. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, highlights that each day 9 people are killed and over 1,000 are injured due to driver distraction. Well, driving while talking on a cell phone requires a great deal of thought, and research suggests that the brain has a hard time doing both simultaneously. In 2012, for example, it was noted that in excess of 3,000 people were known to be killed due to driver distraction. It's estimated that 23% of all car accidents each year involve some sort of cell phone use. Now, if you're really interested in this, I'm talking about 1.3 million crashes. And there's a lot of research out there that suggests that texting while we drive makes a driver somewhere around 23 times more likely to be involved in a crash. How about the media? Well, think about the functions performed by the media. It's through the media that a vast amount of information and ideas is distributed to us. The media provides today almost instantaneous communication of events, developments, etc. The media provides us with entertainment. It introduces us to a wide variety of ideas, notions, etc. And true, there are folks out there who owe to the media the jobs that they have. But the media also can perform some significant dysfunctions. It might help to encourage a passive sort of lifestyle. There's a lot of evidence through studies that would suggest that some media presentations promote stereotypes. Likewise, spending a lot of time watching media discourages a viewer from physical activity, and I think all of you would agree as well, perhaps from critical thinking. And certainly, the media can misinform. I often apply this notion of functions and dysfunctions to sport because it's such a meaningful activity in our society. Well, sport can perform a lot of very important functions. Particularly, it can reinforce a number of key social values, the worth we attach to something. You might note this particularly when you think about sport statements or observations that maybe some of you have heard. For example, I still remember PE instructors and coaches telling me that through sport I can build character. And they would reinforce this with statements such as, there is no I, the letter I, there is no U, the letter U, in team. It's spelled T-A-M. I also remember this one. Cooperate. Remember the banana. Every time it leaves the bunch, it gets skinned. Likewise, I recall that there were those coaches who tried to link, in some form or fashion, sport to fortitude and preparation for life. A lot of you probably remember this famous saying: when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Or this one: it's easy to be ordinary, but it takes guts to excel. And there was also often those coaches who drew a relationship between sport and the values associated with physical fitness and mental alertness. And so I'd get pounded with comments such as, well, nobody ever drowns in sweat. Or maybe you remember this one: fatigue makes cowards of us all. But sociologists have also highlighted there are some serious dysfunctions associated with sport. The emphasis placed upon winning, excelling, may very well cause some problems. Because I think you'd agree with me, there's not always a lot of winners. And this heavy emphasis on winning could possibly turn some folk off, particularly those who are really making efforts to excel. Others might want to increase their odds of success by employing questionable methods of one sort or the other, such as cheating or taking illicit or illegal physically enhancing drugs. Additionally, think about it for just a moment. This emphasis on winning could perhaps give rise to certain illegal acts, like gambling. Now, the really controversial part of this model is the notion that everything that exists in society performs some kind of functions. Think about crime for a moment. I think most of you would agree that crime is dysfunctional. Yet again, I think a lot of you, and I suppose you could make the same argument for mental illness, but both of these quote-unquote problems provide gainful employment for some folks, correct? And some years ago, Kingsley Davis noted several functions performed by prostitution. All of us can make probably a quick argument that prostitution is dysfunctional. It's an illegal act. We have to, through our tax dollars, pay police authorities to keep it under control. It is an activity that generates billions of dollars, but most of this goes untaxed. Plus, there is the spread of sexually transmitted diseases. But he noted that prostitution may very well serve as an outlet for some folks who find it very difficult, if not impossible, to compete on the open sexual and marriage market. People, for example, who are physically or mentally handicapped, those who are disfigured. Again, prostitution may provide real benefits for them. He also notes the fact that it can be an outlet for those who have jobs that keep them away from their home or home communities for long periods of time. I don't want to be stereotypic here, but traveling sales folks, long-distance truckers, members of the military. And last but not least, he highlights the fact that prostitution may very well provide an outlet for those who have or enjoy unusual sexual tastes. That is to say, kinky sex. Bear in mind, too, if you highlight the information that's found on pages 7 and 8, you'll note, and you don't have this on your study guide, and you might take a moment just to reflect on it. This kind of brings together the key elements of the model itself, highlighting its focus as well as key questions that are asked. Next time, we'll look at the model noted directly below, the conflict model. So until next time.